Hello, and welcome back to our podcast, Flower Farming in New Zealand, where we dig into the detail of growing beautiful blooms here in Aotearoa. I'm your host, Jo Robinson, a flower farmer, a flower lover, and a creator of floral works. I'm keen to encourage the growing, buying, selling, and the use of our gorgeous local and seasonal flowers. This season, the podcast is brought to you by United Flower Growers, or as it's known in the trade, UFG. Talk to UFG today about buying or selling your flowers through their organisation. Hello, and welcome back. Today, my guest is Sandy from Egmont Seeds. Welcome, Sandy. Lovely to have you here on the podcast.
Hi, Jo. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your role at Egmont Seeds?
I'm Sandy, and the marketing manager at Egmont Seeds. I work with all our customers to help them get what they need in terms of what they may need to grow different varieties or plants and stuff, like horticulture notes. I also help with the catalogue, so sourcing new plant material.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite parts to do. So seed catalogues and the internet, and I'm always looking.
That's
always
excellent.
welcoming suggestions.
What a lovely job to have, scouring seed catalogues. Actually, I'd get frustrated after a while and I'd want to go out and do something. But yeah, the idea is lovely.
Yeah, which I'm lucky to do because as well as the marketing manager, my background is horticulture. And so I get to go outside and help the sweet peas that we are growing for seeds. So you get the best of both worlds.
Excellent. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about how Egmont's started? Did they start with veg or have they always been veg and flowers?
So Egmont started way back when basically John McCullough, the owner, when he was at school, he did work experience for Watkins Seeds and basically he never left. He stayed there until he was 39 when he decided to go out with his work colleague and create Egmont Seeds. And they basically went around the world knocking on seed company doors and asking if they would supply them. And one of the biggest ones said yes. And that's how Egmont Seeds was created.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the history of Egmont Seeds, how they got from just John touring the world knocking on doors to where they are now?
So we've become New Zealand's largest seed company, and we import all our seed from all over the world, America, Europe, Asia, and then we supply all the retail businesses, nurseries growing for retail businesses. They sell into Bunnings, the marketings, the garden centres. We have our online home garden retail brand. We also sell commercial flower seed in bulk quantities to the bigger flower growers, crop flower growers, some herb farmers, and a small amount of vegetable. More people are growing vegetables for farmers markets and the likes, but yeah, we tend to leave that side of seeds to the big boys of vegetable growing. And then we also contract pack for retail brands as well.
That's quite a lot, isn't it, to take on?
Yeah.
So do you know off the top of your heads how many staff do Egmont employ now?
We sit around 17. It can fluctuate a little bit. Depending on what we're doing and what our customers are wanting from us.
You said before you had a background in horticulture. What's your horticultural background?
So my grandparents and my mum have always had big gardens, and I've always had a little garden as a kid, and always entered school competitions and whatnot, and then had the most amazing horticulture teacher at high school. So from there, it was an easy choice to go on to uni, and I did a Bachelor of Applied Science, majored in landscape management, where I did all facets of horticulture, so landscape design, parks and gardens, sports turf management, bit of forestry and silviculture.
Was that at Massey?
Yeah, in Palmerston North. So absolutely loved that. And then from there, I worked at Hamilton Gardens for a few years before moving back home to Taranaki, where I managed a public garden before I applied for a job here at Egmont Seeds, and they just basically created a role for me. And here I am.
That's very cool. To have a role created to suit your experience and your talents is a pretty neat way to be. You're still corporate, but you're corporate with your talent.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And it's been great because I've done a few different roles now. And so I have a sort of good understanding of the business and how everything works. And so I can help out wherever basically, which is nice in the busy season. Like I'll jump on the mail bench if I have to, or pack seeds if I have to. Yeah, it's cool. Love
Excellent.
it.
So what do you personally like to grow?
Bit of everything. And when I moved to my new house, I basically had a blank canvas and I said to myself, because I've had 2 previous massive gardens, but now that I've got kids, I sort of said, keep it simple, keep it easy. And I was sort of just going to go for shrubby stuff, but that didn't happen. I've collected some rare and unusual plants over the years, and they all come with me to every house I've moved to. And we get something new in at work, and I'm like, oh, I've got to grow that. Or, yeah. My garden's a bit hibbity-pilkity and a mixture of everything. It's just things that I love, basically. And then I grow vegetables that I like to eat. And, I've always got to have a lemon tree and a bit of parsley and, just your staples.
But it sounds like that's your happy place and you can play in your happy place to your heart's content.
Definitely. Like people always say to me, oh, what's your hobby? And I'm like, gardening. No, that's not a hobby. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's no different to people getting enjoyment from motorbike riding or whatever. Like I get enjoyment from gardening. So
Good on you. Moving back towards Egmont, you've recently got into growing sweet peas for seed on a fairly large scale. Do you want to tell us some of that story?
Yeah, so Keith Hammett, most of you will know, is one of the world's best sweet pea breeders. A couple of years ago, he was kind of looking for people to carry on his legacy and continue growing his cultivars. He asked John if he would do it. And so John did a small trial back in 2018 and absolutely loved it. And then fast forward sort of 5 years and 2 things happened. We were struggling to get sweet pea seed into New Zealand because there's really only 1 or 2 main suppliers in the world that have the quantities that we require. And they were just getting crop failure after crop failure after crop failure. So there's this big bloating market for sweet pea seed. And then John's sister, she passed away and he happened to own her house. He had this money sitting there and he just said, I'm going to grow sweet peas on a big scale. 1.2 hectares later, 6 kilometres worth of rows. We built a big enclosed cage and grew 6 kilometres of sweet peas.
My jaw's hitting the ground. How many kilometres of rows?
6.
6 kilometres of rows, all netted, above the rows netted to keep birds out. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so think of like an apple orchard. We've got one of those big, fully enclosed cages.
Wow. That's going big.
Yeah, go big or go home.
So I know Parsons had major failures with his seeds in the UK. So is Egmont now selling back seeds to the UK? Is that the plan, to be able to sell them internationally?
Yep, and we have. It was Roger Parsons. He actually sold his seed business to Phil Johnson. So we've just sold some seed to them. We've just got some seed into China. And we're just working through getting it into America, which has been massive to us. Nae's Garden, which a lot of people may have heard of or seen. She's one of the big seed sellers in America. So we're working with her. Yeah, get the seed into America. So that's exciting.
That's a massive thing to take on at the time when the tariffs and any trade with America is so fraught with all kinds of difficulties. So I don't envy you that one little bit. Wow. Big tick in the box. Well done. Apart from the sweet peas, where are all your other seed varieties sourced or grown? I think you said you sourced from all over the world. Does that include from within New Zealand?
Yep, very limited in New Zealand. Yes, we're at the bottom of the world. Local market is so small. It makes it hard for anyone to really grow a seed on a big scale, especially the flower seed market, quite hard. So we source from all over the world. Our seed supply might be in Germany. They've got growers in Guatemala and India and just it's all over the world. So which can make it a bit complex for importing seed and needing MPI approvals and clearance and whatnot.
Again, I expect that a lot of your success with that comes from the many years of experience, because I've imported seeds legally through MPI before, and it's not been an issue because I've only been importing things which are approved under their basic.
Yeah.
But for you guys, you're going way beyond that, aren't you?
Yeah. So part of my job is something's new or someone's asking for something new. That's my first port of call, is to check that
Check
list,
the MPI.
make sure and see what's required. It's not a no, but anything that needs testing just pushes the cost up so much. And if it's not tested prior to arrival, then you're taking a big gamble on the cost of the seed, the cost of the test, and if that test fails, then that's money down the drain that you can't
completely
recover, basically.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's not like they release it and say, oh, but it didn't pass the test, let it test again. They destroy it on sites.
Yeah. Apart from this, if the seed is dirty, we can clean it. We've got cleaning facilities here where we can clean the seed through machinery, and then they can inspect it again and inspect it a third time if need be. So that it's not always the case. It's more just the virus testing. If it fails that's something you can't recover.
I'll just mention the Sandy because some people may not know this, but if you are bringing in seed of any kind, those seeds do need to be checked on the MPI website. And if you want to bring them in, unless you want to go through all those steps that Sandy has spoken about, only look at the basic seeds, and you can search by basic. So that's a little bit off our topic, but just because we're talking importing, I'll just put that out there. It's not hard to import them if they're basic, but just do your homework. That's all I would say on that.
Yeah, and reputable seed companies as well. Like, we get asked to bring in seed all the time because they've seen it on some person's site. Yeah, sometimes it's just not the risk. It might be basic, but it can still contain chaff or foreign seed matter and stuff, and then it can still get destroyed at the border. Whereas the bigger seed companies are cleaning their seed. They know, they're shipping all around the world, so they know it has to be clean.
They understand. Oh, really important question. What do you look for when you're choosing which varieties to offer?
Yeah, so first thing, check that it's on the MPI list and allowed in the country. Things like performance. How's it going to grow in New Zealand conditions? Is it going to get really long and biggy? Is the colour going to get washed out by our hole in the ozone layer? And it's what sometimes you see them overseas and they look beautiful. You grow them here and the colour just becomes washed out and insipid. So part of my job, and John's done it for years and years, is we go to what we call the patch trials over in California. We visit all the big seed companies. They all set up trials of their new seed lines, and we go and view them so we can actually see how they're performing and what they actually look like. Because it's one thing for them to tell us that they're amazing, but you see them in real life, and there's been some that we think, oh man, this is going to be amazing. And then we see it and we're like, nah, we don't want to put our name to that. So, yeah, it's quite important.
But that's so important that you can see it in real life, even if it's not grown in the conditions that it will grow in New Zealand. At least you have seen some of its behaviour. And I suppose the other thing you have to think about too is that you're seeing kind of like the Insta show of the seed. They're only showing you the best.
Exactly. They're just taking a snapshot.
A snapshot. That's a better way than saying Insta. You're seeing a very specific snapshot that they have chosen to show you, that's a very interesting way to have to view. But how amazing to be able to see so many different trials from so many different countries at one time.
Exactly, yeah, it is. And it's real fascinating because you talk to them and they're talking as though, that they compare us to the American market, and we quite often have to say, we can't take those humongous begonias because we don't have the truck space to get them around New Zealand, and they just get damaged in transit and whatnot, So, they forget about little old New Zealand and just how marketed it is.
Well, you've just proven that by even the fact that you have to think about things. I wouldn't have thought about the size of the plants and the transporting because I'm thinking about flowers. But you're thinking about so many of your different customers that it makes it, you're looking at it in a completely different way than I would look at it, which is really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So we sort of wear, I don't know, I can get tripped up on this, wear different hats. I've got my commercial hat and then, the cut flower hat and the home gardener hat. And you sort of got to think, okay, who am I dealing with now? And what are they expecting?
Will they buy in enough volume to make it worth us bringing this into the country?
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite complex, really. So how does Egmont actually ensure seed quality, germination rates and freshness?
So most of the seed that comes in already has a germination percentage on a seed packet. We try to take 80% and above. If it was lower than that, they generally let us know and say, oh, hey, we're only getting 60% germ, but we can overpack it. And then so when we on-sell it, we can provide that overpack as well so that you're getting more seed to hopefully up that germination rate. But you're not necessarily, like you may have ordered 1,000 but we'll supply 2,000 type thing, but you're not paying for 2,000.
And I know I've seen on your commercial packs the percentage germination rates are written on there, so you know why you've got more or the exact count or whatever, which is always good information. It does give you a pre-warning of what to expect.
And now with technology, most of them have a QR code on it that you can scan and get the latest germination results.
I didn't know that.
We may have got the seed in last year, but we can scan it this year and see that it's still got an 80%, 90% germ, which has been handy because usually things like petunias, violas and pansies, we sort of a year turnover and that's it. But now we've discovered that some of the petunias will last 2 to 3 years easy and still have a good germ. So we've probably been throwing out all this seed that we didn't need to.
How do you try to ensure that the seeds that you're selling are fresh?
So, we know that they've all got a high turnover of seed, just being the big companies that they are. We have to wait for the seed sometimes. So tell us seeds due end of December when we get the new crop. So we know it's going to be new or fresh, but once it arrives here, we have all temperature controlled rooms. So pelleted seed goes into fridges that are set at around 4 degrees and humidity controlled. All our commercial seed is kept in cool rooms, set anywhere between 8 and 10 degrees. And then what it's kept in, so we pack it in foil where we can, and that keeps the moisture out to keep fresh.
There's so many parts to it that you have to think about, don't you? It's very involved. So do you actually test some of the seed lines once you get them in to see how they do actually perform in New Zealand?
Not like some of the seed companies we do. We'd have to have a whole lot more land and staff to do all of that. And with that pushes the price up of the seed and whatnot. But most of the time we grow a lot of it out of interest more than anything. Yeah. So we've got this, for example, we've got a new watermelon. It's a little mini one. So we're all excited to grow that this year.
And that just brings me perfectly on to the next question. Are there particular varieties that do better in different regions? Do you take that into account?
Yes and no, because obviously, north of New Zealand's really warm.
And wet.
More stuff and wet, yeah. Well, it's been wet everywhere, to be fair, really.
No.
Like everyone's, maybe not you in Central Otago, but I think the rest of New Zealand will be like, yes, we're drowning in rain. Give us some sunshine. So, right throughout New Zealand, there's microclimates, and you've sort of got to know what your own climate is to be able to grow the best that you can.
I agree with that 100%. It's the grower's responsibility, not the seed sellers. The growers need to know their microclimate, their soils, their water, everything.
Yeah.
If they can't grow the seed, then have they bought the right seed?
Exactly. Or provided the right growing conditions. You can plant a shelter belt or provide a greenhouse that will alter those growing conditions. So,
here's a really good question. Have you introduced or trialled any new varieties this year? Tell us the secrets.
Yes, every year we introduce new varieties. It's getting harder since COVID. We've noticed there's been a big drop in new varieties coming through.
So is that lack of breeding happening, or is that lack of plants being grown for seed?
lack of breeding, I think. When we were in California, there was a few new things that were sort of coming along, but yeah, nothing like they used to be pre-COVID. Like, it used to be a whole glass house to one supplier. When we went after COVID, it was 3 or 4 suppliers in one glass house. I don't know if they lost a lot of their breeding through COVID or what, but yeah, there just doesn't seem to be the new and interesting things like it used to be pre-COVID. So yeah, we've got the little watermelon. That's really exciting. Estimated to be 50 days till harvest, whereas in usual, yeah. So a normal one would take anywhere about 110 to 130 days. So 50 days has got us excited. That's in glasshouse conditions, to be fair. But
I'm sure I can fit a couple in my glasshouse.
Yeah, they're only about this big. They're like snacking ones. So yeah,
that's cool. Okay, order will be coming later today. Let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Season 2 of this podcast is proudly sponsored by UFG, New Zealand's largest flower wholesaler. While UFG is best known for its in-house auctions in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, it operates other platforms to ensure growers connect with the right buyers and buyers with the best flowers. Listen to our sponsors episode of the podcast and check out the UFG website to learn about the innovative remote online flower auctioning system and the virtual wholesale platform. And if you need another option, there are 4 on-site wholesale outlets based in Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Invercargill. UFG, connecting growers with the right buyers and buyers with the best flowers. Hey petals, and just like that, we're back into today's conversation. So I'm going to ask you for some advice for growers. What do you think one of the most common mistakes people make when they try starting seeds?
There's a few. We probably get questions on the day about why aren't my seeds germinating, or I've grown this and they haven't germinated. So sowing the seed on top of the seed raising mats or in covering it. So some seed requires light, and if they haven't read that particular detail, then they'll probably won't get germination.
It's research and knowing what the seed needs.
And we try and provide that on our backs of our packets because it's handy when you're sowing it. People don't want to have to be getting their phones out and looking it up. If they can just turn the seed packet over and read what they need to do. But even then, sometimes you still need a little bit of knowledge to know what we're talking about. Like if I was to say bottom watering to a complete newbie, I don't know if they'd know fully what I was meaning.
True.
When you've only got so much space on the back of a seed packet, it can be a little bit hard to get you.
I have this vision of somebody watering the seeds till the water ran out the bottom rather than watering from the bottom. I'd never thought that people wouldn't understand that.
They might water with a hose instead of something that's more gentle, and they just wash their seed away. And so, there's lots of different things. Too cold, too hot, letting them dry out. Process of elimination, usually.
I have a little box that's kept by my computer, and it's just called Seeds to Sow for this week. So my first task at the weekend is to go through and make sure I've got all the info, and I write it on any tips from last year on the packet so that I know when I go down to the seed sowing table, I've got it all there. But it's taken me a lot of years to get all that information together. And like you say, everything that I write on the packet, you wouldn't be able to write on the packet. You'd have no room for anything else. Do you have some favourite tips for improving germination or seedling health? I
always try and tell people to try and use a heat mat where, unless it's something that requires a bit colder temperature to germinate, the majority of things will respond to a heat pad, and that just helps keep the seed germinating in more uniform matter and definitely helps it speed up. If I've got a heat pad, it definitely helps.
The alternative that we've got to a heat pad is we've got an old fridge freezer, side-by-side fridge freezer that we've turned into a germination chamber. It has one small heat pad in it, and on that heat pad sits an ice cream container full of water, so it's warm, moist air, and all the seeds go in there to, as much as anything for us, because we are in central It's to bring the soil up to a temperature that the seeds will like. And then once even if they like light to germinate, I'll put them in there to start with, then bring them out into the light because it's brought them up to temperature. So that's an option for someone. It's not hard to do, to put a heat mat into an old fridge, and you can do it whatever size you want. And it gives you a germination chamber just like that, which works for us. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. With your flowery hat on, what flower varieties would you recommend for Let's Go Cut Flowers?
Can't go wrong with your sunflowers, your zinnias, and sweet peas.
Nigella,
yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're probably the main core ones. And marigolds and calendulas if you like them, but they're not everyone's cup of tea.
But the new marigolds that have the unscented foliage, I think, are way better if somebody wanted to try that.
Definitely.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because of those seeds that we just spoke about there, most of them are summer seeds, when it is easier for beginners to start growing a summer crop rather than to go towards spring where the temperature fluctuates and autumn where the temperature fluctuates a lot more. If they started with easy summer crops, they'll feel more positive about the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. So what do you think are some underrated varieties that flower farmers should be growing and aren't?
Yeah, I think this is personal preference, because I could name a whole heap and then everyone be sitting there going, that's ugly. But I think if you're creative enough, you can make anything look beautiful in a bouquet or a flower arrangement. Equinox.
Love it.
Ageratum.
Yep, love it. Although I never get it as tall as they do up north. It's prolific, but it's just not as tall. Yeah.
That's interesting. Nigella. I would have thought we'd sell more Nigella than we do. I did up these bouquets for a school fundraiser and they were gone within 10 minutes and everyone was asking what the Nigella pods were. And they add such an interest to bouquets as well.
I had some florists visit, and it was while the Nigella was in flower. They couldn't have cared less about anything else on the flower farm. They just wanted to stick their faces in the Nigella. And all the photos they took were of them with the Nigella, because they'd never seen it en masse like that before in flower.
Yeah.
Because I sell as many of the pods as I do of the flowers.
Yeah.
It's so easy to grow. Do you want to just spend a moment and just explain to people what the difference is between Egmont Seeds and Egmont Professional?
Yeah, so we've got what we call our home gardener range, and that's where the cut flower packet range falls into. So that's all purchased online and paid for, whereas commercial is most people have an account.
For those that don't know, when Sandy's talking about the cut flower varieties, if you go onto the Egmont's website and in the search bar you put CF, you get all the cut flower varieties come up, or you can just click on the cut flower variety. And those seeds you pay for before they're sent to you. And Egmont Professional you can buy on account. And
we don't keep everything in stock in the commercial lines. So we have to do some forward orders and create a big enough order to send to the seed supplier, and then we'll get it in. So you might order it, but it might take anywhere up to 8 weeks to come into, sometimes longer. With the bigger ones, 2 to 3 weeks is usually our turnaround.
And the volume of seeds in those two options is quite different, isn't it? So in, let's call it the normal website, the cut flower website, if we call it that, you're looking around 250, 500 maybe.
We try and make the packets aligned to seed trays. So a 72 or 200 cell seed tray. Sometimes we can't, just because of the cost, and we want to provide it, so we have to put less seed in the packet to make it more affordable type thing. But generally we're looking, because if they send them up to Narakau for seed plugs, then they need that amount of seed to be able to sow it through your machines. That's why we've got them labelled as 200s or 1000s type thing.
And with the Egmont Professional ones, most of them are in multiples of 250, if not multiples of 1,000, aren't they?
Yeah. Because then 250 goes into 1,000, because we still might have to buy 1,000 from our seed supplier in the hope that 4 people will buy 250.
Yeah, it'd be nice if everything sold in thousands and you didn't have to package quite as much. What volume of seeds does a grower need to be buying to have an account with Egmont Professional?
Anyone can basically buy from professionals so long as they're purchasing in minimum quantities.
And they've set up an account. So you said it may take 8 weeks for seeds to get to you. How far ahead of planting or growing do you think that people should be planning their seed needs?
As far out as possible. Make it easier for us. They can put in what we call forward orders. So they can order the seeds in April and say, but I don't want to take them until August. Yeah, it just helps us to make sure we can get that seed in. It will give them plenty of notice that that seed's not going to be available so that they can find an alternative.
So when we started the conversation, I'm sure you said something about part of your job was helping with writing growing guides or planting charts.
So we've got basic ones on our website, but
Yes.
most of the suppliers have their grower facts or cultural guides that go with each seed line or series, and we've got access to all of them. So if there was something that people wanted to know, they can just email us and ask. We have looked at putting them all on the website, but yeah, it's always changing. So we're constantly updating, and because there's so many different varieties, it's sort of a big job. So it's easier for them just to email and ask for them so that we can give them the most current.
But there is quite a lot of information of the printed catalogue as well, isn't there? Which is a good guide for people.
Whereas we try and make sure it's up to date as possible with clients. So most things aren't going to change anyways.
And a small apology here for the whistling noise. It's blowing a little bit at Sandy's place. So any whistling in the background, that's the wind blowing. There's not a breath of wind here, I'll say, in Central Otago. But there you go. We haven't got rain either.
Always wind and rain in Taranaki.
There you go. So is Egmont taking any particular steps towards sustainability in the packaging or sourcing of production of seeds?
Yes, and we've trialled compostable foil. So obviously it's actually not called foil, it's cornstarch, but it's expensive. And we trialled breaking down in the home compost and hadn't broken down that much after a year. So although it will eventually, you just can't beat the foil for freshness. What we mail out in is all compostable or packaging. So yeah, where we can, you do. You're a little bit restricted.
But it's the absolute best answer, Sandy, because would I rather have my seeds in foil and know they were fresh, or would I rather have them in a questionably compostable cornstarch and not be able to keep them fresh? It's a business decision, but it's a decision for the good of your customers, which that's your role. Look after them. Do you think that local seed production is actually important to New Zealand growers, whether they be home gardeners or cut flower farmers or veg growers? Do you think they care where their seed comes from?
They say they will, but I don't think they really do. So long as they can get the seed, I think that's the biggest fact. And when you live at the bottom of the world, your choices are so limited.
Yeah, and it's interesting when push comes to shove, are people going to pay a lot more for locally grown seed from a company that doesn't have the same reputation as an international company that's been doing it for years? And it's the economics of volume, as you were talking about before.
Exactly.
Well,
we've seen it with our broad beans. We've been getting all our broad beans from the South Island for years and years, and now all of a sudden it's just not viable for them to do it anymore. So now our broad beans are going to have to be imported. So, and that's broad beans. So you then take a little cut flower, the volumes that we might sell of that, there's just no way they could survive growing those lines.
No.
And they'd have, and there's so many of those little lines. So, it's a shame, but that's just reality. Really?
It would be a massive undertaking. I just have this vision in my head of rows and rows of netted crops to stop them being cross-pollinated and just managing all of that. It's not like just going out to garden and taking some seeds means that you've bred what that plant was.
I was just going to say, and that's where some people fall into the trap of saving their own seed and then on selling it, because it's not necessarily going to be
True.
pure and true to form. And we've seen that with the sweet pea seeds, the stuff that we imported and we grew out in our sweet pea cage. A lot of it wasn't what it was saying it was. So it was being imported as Keith Hammett almost black, but we grew his seed and there was just no comparison. Like his was almost black. The imported stuff was just red, didn't look anything like his red. So
it's fascinating, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of people who don't understand the difference between growing from seed and breeding.
Yeah.
Because they are two completely different things. And if you grow from seed, you're not necessarily breeding, you're just sowing seeds. But unless you have taken a concerted and considered approach to breeding specific parts of a plant or qualities.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of my bugbear. I get very cross with people who say that they are breeding when they're just growing. They are undermining and undervaluing all of the work that goes into actually breeding a plant, not just luckily growing a seed and it's pretty.
Yeah. It's a bugbear of ours as well.
I'll get off my high horse, but I just think that breeders are hugely undervalued.
Exactly. And it's a shame to see their work and their years of breeding go down the drain because the care hasn't been taken in the pollination stage. They say this seed, but who knows what it was pollinated with. It may not come true to form, and you're not on selling it. And suddenly what they're saying it isn't anything like the original.
So what trends or shifts are you seeing in seed demand? Are more people growing flowers or are they focusing on vegetables to feed their families?
Yeah, at the moment we sell more seed of vegetables. If we combine flowers with cut flowers, then it surpasses the vegetables. We sell more of that together. But it's pretty even though.
Okay. And are you seeing any exciting new varieties that you think will come on in the next year if we don't have access to them now?
Well, hopefully. I've tried my luck with getting in all those pretty zinnias and celoteas from Johnny's seed, and that was an epic fail, thanks Donald Trump. So hopefully we can access some of those more unique colours that everyone is so desperate to get. And whatever Floret Farms does is what New Zealand wants, basically.
I have to say that I'm not enamored with a lot of those colours, and that's purely because of our light here. Our light is incredibly harsh, and even any of the lighter coloured zinnias, they just look washed out and boring. I haven't tried the Floret seed, and I'm sure some of them are absolutely beautiful, but it's knowing our conditions, and we have very intense colours in a lot of our flowers because of our temperature changes between day and night. And anything that's lighter, unless it is a very precise, clear colour like a white, it looks damaged more than it looks pretty. So I'll be, if you do get them in, I'll certainly be trying some, but I'll be doing it as a trial just to see how they do go in our light.
Yeah. Comments that I've read, a lot of people were a bit disappointed with how they turned out, and I think that was probably half the reason was because of our light levels and intensity of the sun over here.
Just very, very different.
Yeah.
So how do you see Egmont's role evolving in the local flower farming community? Are you happy with the position that you're in and how you have created a community of flower farmers with your cut flower range?
Yeah, we are, and you guys support us so well, and so we're always wanting to work with all of you to make sure we've got the most current range and what you guys are wanting to grow.
Unless it's from Floret, and then no.
Yeah. So we're always open to suggestions, and I'll do my best to get them in or find a source. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I think John's enjoyed it, and it's not going away anytime soon from what I can see. We're still getting lots of new customers and flower farmers coming on Seeds. So it's cool to see.
It is awesome. So I'm going to throw a few slightly more personal questions at you now. What's your favourite flower to grow from seed?
Yeah, it's a hard question. That's like
I know,
asking
but
an
you've got to
artist.
answer it.
Last year it was the Garas. I really loved having them in the garden.
Yeah. And you grew them from seed.
Yeah.
Big tick.
Yeah. They're self-sowing, I've noticed this year. They've popped up all over my garden. So stoked about that. Them and Rebecca's. Love a good Rebecca or a sunflower. So just things that make me happy or I can pick and take inside.
I have a thing about sunflowers. I love them, but I only love some of them. And to me, some sunflowers are like a happy face and some are like a big angry exclamation mark. So I like the ones with I like the ones with the gold or the green centers. Yeah. And that Vincent's Choice and those other ones, they leave me cold. And I'm not fond of the rubies either, but those beautiful, is it Sunrich Lime and Sunrich Gold and those ones? Yep. I think they're such a happy flower. They're beautiful. Yeah. And they dry. Did you know they dry? No. They dry wonderfully. Yeah, they're really, really cool dried. So what brings you the most satisfaction in your work?
There's probably a few things that brings me satisfaction. Just my job in itself, what I get to do, scouring seed catalogues, and I can read the New Zealand Gardener and see what's happening all around New Zealand, and following all of you flower growers on Instagram and Facebook. That brings me joy to see, our seeds in your gardens and growing them successfully
and flitting off to California. Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. I've been lucky in that I've been all over the world, not in my jobs, but just for personal vacations, and always made a effort to go and look at different gardens and whatnot.
Flowers are in your blood.
Yeah, live and breathe it.
Final question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone new to sourcing seeds? Here's your chance to make a great plug for Egmont, so go for it. Not sponsored by Egmont, I'll just say, but here you go.
So, of course, you can come to our website and have a look, but I know it can be very overwhelming as what you should grow and what's going to suit your climate. But I think if people grow what they like to eat or like to see in terms of flowers, that will hold them in good stead. Like I don't like beans, so I never grow beans. I just have the staples. I don't like iceberg lettuces, so I grow the picking lettuces. So if you think what you buy in a supermarket, that can translate into what you might buy in our seed catalogue. I think that's a good little tip.
It is really good common sense advice, because if you like it, you'll think about it more and you'll try harder to make it work, and just all of the things, psychologically you want to put the effort in. If you're growing something that you're not going to eat just because you think you should, or if you're growing a flower just because everybody else does and you don't like it, are you going to care as much? No. So is it going to flourish? No. So why do it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Sandy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We could have talked for hours, and you could have taken us on a tour of the site and everything else, but we're going to leave it there. And I'll just say thank you very much for joining us, and to Egmont for supporting flower farmers and for starting the cut flower segment of the website. That's been a huge help to new growers. I know that many have said that. We appreciate that, and I'm so glad to hear that you appreciate us. So thanks for coming along and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jo. And we're always here to help. Don't be scared to email and ask questions. That's part of my job, is to help you guys. So just reach out, ask questions. That's what we're here for.
Thanks, Sandy. Until next time, petals, smile, be happy. Please follow along this season, as with the support of UFG, we can bring you flower farming in New Zealand. UFG, New Zealand's largest flower broker. Talk to them today about buying and selling your flowers.